Hey, what is going on, friends? Meteorologist Jonathan Kagas back with you, and we have a lot to talk about. A lot of the country is on the quiet side. That can't be said for the western United States, as this is really the beginning of this major coast to coast storm that we've been advertising here for the last few days, starting to come ashore. So I'm going to show you exactly where that is. If you are just joining us, I would love to know where you are watching from. Please post that in the comments. And with there's so much going on in the lower 48 of the United States, also the Caribbean, we've quieted down. But if you want to take a look at what's going on in the Caribbean, for my Caribbean friends out there, welcome. Post that in the comments. And you guys can kind of drive to where we take a look at. Again, we're talking about heavy rain and snow right now on the west coast of the U.S., and then we're talking about the potential blizzard in the northern plains, and then the potential for a tornado outbreak in the deep south as we work into Tuesday and Wednesday time period. So this is going to be a major storm, of course, as we go through. And again, post in the comments where you are watching from, and we can kind of dictate to where you live, and we can take a look at all of that stuff as well. We are going to start things off with the water vapor imagery, and this is a beautiful shot here. The satellite looking down, this is the water vapor channel. You can kind of see the motions of the atmosphere, and this is exactly what we are looking at. You see that swirl right in here. That is our upper low, and this is what is going to be driving all of the crazy weather over the next several days. We're already feeling it in places like Seattle, certainly in the Cascades. The brown and orange color represent where we have the dry air, but the green and white represent where we have the moisture. And I'll show you some of the radar sites up and down the Cascades and the Sierra Nevada and show you where the heavy snow is falling right now. And then we'll take a look at where we can see the heaviest snow over the next couple of days as well. So stand by for that. But this is just going to be one crazy system. Eddie, what is going on? Look at this. I've got my coffee so I don't lose my train of thought this time. I came prepared. Welcome back as always, my friend. Thank you for tuning in, and welcome to everybody that is tuning in. Please let me know where you're watching from, and if you like what we are talking about here, we don't like talking about destructive weather, of course, but hit that thumbs up button. Really does help, and it helps to push that out to more people to see and to people to join this growing weather community where we talk and track all things weather. So that is the craziness. This is the start now of really this multi-day coast-to-coast storm that starts in the west and then eventually exits the east coast really by the time we get into Thursday night into Friday. So really there's not going to be any part of the U.S. that is not going to be impacted by this, at least of the continental United States. I want to show you some of the radar sites. I'm going to turn things over to the radar channel here. And as mentioned, this is, again, the start. So we'll take a look in and around Seattle. And as you guys know, especially if you live out in this area, the radars aren't that great in terms of seeing the coverage because they do run into the mountains, and the mountains kind of mess things up a little bit. But we are seeing that heavy rain in and around Seattle and really pushing on shore. We're taking a look towards the coast out of the Aberdeen radar. Seaside, Oregon, Astoria, we are getting some of that heavy rain pushing in right now. And again, this is all the current stuff. We're going to get into that forecast part in a little bit. And if you want to jump there, if I have anybody watching from Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, anywhere in the northern plains, Montana as well, we're going to get nailed with heavy snow, potentially blizzard conditions. So we can take a look at that. And then, of course, we are very concerned about the potential for severe weather and tornadoes as we get into Tuesday. So down the coast we go. Salem, what's going on, guys? If I have anybody tuning in from Salem or Portland, Oregon, some scattered showers in the mix right now, nothing too terribly heavy. We do have some heavy snow, though, falling in the Sierra Nevadas, especially as we get further south. This is in and around Northern California now. Redding, we are seeing some of that rain at this time. Moving further down, then we'll get into the snow. Look at all the heavy rain, though. Sacramento, California, we are getting nailed with some really heavy rain. It's ugly and gray in San Francisco as well. A lot of this, though, beneficial, so we'll take it. But some heavy rain, I mean, just north of San Jose. And look at all this. This is nuts. So, I mean, we'll take it. Obviously, we've been very dry in a lot of California. Obviously, it's well documented. And if you live there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that is something that is going to continue as well as this kind of system rides down the coast. And I will show you again some of the modeling of that in just a few minutes. We'll take you further down into the Fresno area, and you see some of the rain on the lower elevations. We'll take you up to the Reno radar here, and I'm going to turn on the winter weather product. And there's some of that snow that is falling. Again, South Lake Tahoe, we're getting it. And this is great news for the ski lovers. Certainly, there have been times, there have been winters that have been ugly of late for the snow lovers out in the mountains. We desperately need the snow there, and we are going to get a ton of that. I'm going to get into the forecast mode now, where I show you some of the snowfall amounts that can be expected. And we're talking around Mammoth Lakes, potentially 40, 50 inches of snow. So this is great stuff, again, if you like to ski. Here we go with the actual forecast. I'm going to get over to my model page and show you exactly what we're looking at here. And really where you see that bright blue color here through the Sierra Nevadas, this is going to be the bullseye, if you will, these jackpot snow totals, at least for the start of this event. And I'll turn on my telestration to kind of highlight where I am looking at right alongside you. And notice where we have, if my telestration wants to work today, it looks like it needs some coffee. It is not working at this present time. But where you see that bright blue color, you can follow the mouse. That's where we're talking about the potential for 40 to 50 inches of snow right along the Sierra Nevadas. If you're watching from Nevada, that is going to spread as this upper low slides through. So places like Elko, we could get 6+ inches of snow. In northeast Nevada out of this. Certainly the mountains of Idaho, this is now as we move into Sunday night, into early Monday morning, it's going to continue west. And basically what we have going on here is this huge upper level low that's just going to really push its way through parts of the Four Corners. And specifically here, we are looking at this big bright red area. This is going to be the strong winds at the base of this trough, kind of blasting across the southern plains. And this is going to be the mechanism here for at least the potential for some severe weather as we really move into Tuesday. So this is what I want to focus on. Just checking some of your comments. Every now and then I might just look on over to the other screen where I have the comments coming in. So again, feel free to post. If there is something that you want to talk about weather-wise, please post that in the comments and we can shift our direction on a dime. I'm just kind of going in order here, but if there's something you want to talk about, stop me, post it in the comments, and we will get into that. So really, the main concern is, as the system progresses out of the plains, you see this big red and brown area, big jet streak here. This is going to be the mechanism and the focal point for the potential for severe weather going forward, not only for Tuesday, but into the overnight hours of Tuesday and into early Wednesday morning. And really focusing on places like Louisiana, Arkansas, maybe even up to southern Missouri. And all of that is going to then push its way east, although the intensity of that severe weather is going to wind down as it moves closer to the East Coast. Eddie, thanks for that report. And since you're on and since you're talking about it, we can shift focus. Again, if anybody's tuning in for the severe weather outbreak portion, we will certainly come on back. And again, please let me know where you were watching from and we can dictate that. But here is the reason for all of that rough surf. I'm going to take you back to the satellite. So give me 1 second as I switch some things over again. We're going to take a trip outside of the country and go to the North Atlantic. I have to turn my satellite back on. We're going to go into the main development region satellite of the Atlantic Basin, not Eastern Pacific. We don't want to go to the Eastern Pacific right now. Atlantic Basin. So here we go. So this is why this giant system here, you can kind of see the spin. We're already losing daylight up there, so I'll have to switch back over to the infrared channel. But look at this. See that swirl up here? This behemoth storm. Let me step it back because the visible satellite is extremely impressive. I'm going to step it back a few more frames so you can see the swirl here. But this is a beast of a system. This is the system that we were talking about that had the potential anyway of becoming a tropical system. I think a lot of it was more hype that a lot of people were saying this was going to become a hurricane. There is no doubt this thing is producing hurricane force winds in the North Atlantic, but it's not a hurricane. It's a mid-latitude cyclone. It does not have any tropical characteristics. But you see how beastly this thing is. I mean, this is in between St. John's. The Azores are right in here. So, I mean, we're getting blasted with really big waves. But it's impacting us, as Eddie pointed out. I mean, look at that thing. Look at it. It's beautiful on satellite. It's crazy looking. You see that swirl up here? And, of course, Puerto Rico. We're way down here on the northern side. And I mean, we are dealing with in Florida on the East Coast, there have been a lot of fatalities because of the rip current risk, and that's all being generated by this thing up here. So again, if you're watching from New York City, or I don't know why you'd be going to the beach in the Northeast, because it is cold. The water's certainly really cold. But I mean, if you were planning on venturing into the water anywhere up and down the East Coast of the U.S., the rip current risk is through the roof. The seas are rough, and it's crazy because it is all because, and we lose the daylight there for a second. We'll get it back from the earlier scan, but this very big area of low pressure, non-tropical in nature, that is way up in the North Atlantic in between Nova Scotia and Ireland up in the corner of your screen. So just crazy, crazy stuff up there. Well, I have the radar section back on, and Eddie mentions too, yeah, I mean, anywhere in the Northern Caribbean, I mean, even the Leeward Islands, the Windward Islands, Trinidad and Tobago, if you're planning on going to the beaches, and there it is conducive to going to the beach because it is still very, very nice, very warm. The rip current risk is very ugly in the Caribbean. So just be careful. Just please watch what you are doing and be mindful of that we will have, I mean, not even the potential. The rip currents are really, really ugly through those parts. So just keep that in mind if you are heading out. I mean, if you're in the Caribbean, if you're living in the Caribbean or watching, the rip current risk is ugly. I mean, same goes for Florida and then all up and down the eastern seaboard because of this ridiculous storm. I mean, we'll let that go one more time, then we're going to head back to the severe weather risk, but just a beast of a storm in the North Atlantic. I want to welcome the new viewers that are tuning in. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you are finding us for the first time, we track and talk all things weather. Please let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments, and we can focus on some of the weather is where you live. I would love to know what kind of weather you are seeing out there. Eddie just reported that he's seeing some nasty rip currents out there and some rough surf because of that storm. I want to turn our attention, though, back to the potential for the severe weather outbreak. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn on the severe weather outlook. And this is from the Storm Prediction Center. And what this is the Storm Prediction Center has their typically day 1, day 2, day 3 outlook. It's where they put in if they believe there's going to be a slight risk, a moderate risk, or a high risk. And now there's enhanced and marginal in there as well. But this is crazy rare. We did a video on this the other day. They had the higher probabilities. Again, it's rare in December to get the yellow, okay? But we're into that second tier of probabilities 6 days out. Now this is 4 days out, but as late as 6 days out, the Storm Prediction Center already had this highlighted for the potential for severe weather. And again, we could have those long track tornadoes involved in this if everything shakes out right. And obviously we were hoping that does not come back into the fruition as well. Hey, good morning or good afternoon or evening, I guess, in Pakistan. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate you tuning in and finding the channel. It is, of course, the afternoon, but you're way ahead of us in the timeline anyway. But it's really the northern part of Louisiana and then the southern part of Arkansas, maybe extreme western Mississippi. This is where we are most concerned with the potential for the severe weather outbreak. And we're going to focus on the severe weather side of this, and then we're going to talk about the blizzard potential on the cold side of this system in just a second. But the same system that's rocking the Cascades and the Sierra Nevadas and parts of California right now with heavy rain and snow, we're focused on this big, bright red streak across your screen. A lot of wind energy at about 15 to 20,000 feet up in the atmosphere. The one thing that I want to point out here is that I want you to notice, if you look closely here at these streamlines, those little gray lines on your screen, and I'm going to point them out with my arrow. Notice how we have them going north towards Iowa, Missouri, Minnesota, and then you see them bend down to the east on the southern end of that ejection of that upper low. That's what we call difluent flow. And the big severe weather outbreaks, we typically see that split flow, as we call it. Now, what happens is we're likely going to see some thunderstorms or some rain showers on the early side of the day, which could help keep the instability down overall across a widespread scale. So I'm not sure if we're going to see an outbreak per se on a widespread area, but there could be some very nasty and ugly thunderstorms, potentially producing tornadoes in that risk area of maybe eastern Oklahoma, East Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. So that's where we're really going to be focused on Tuesday night and into Wednesday. We're planning on going live on this channel to track the potential for severe weather on Tuesday, or to track these severe weather. So if you are new to this channel and you haven't subscribed and you're interested in keeping up with that, we're going to have updates through the rest of the weekend on that. So please hit the subscribe button. Please hit that alert bell, and you'll be notified when we go live and post new content. We have you covered on this channel. And again, we don't do anything crazy either. So that's the main concern with this, is that we have that split flow. It's mass continuity, as we call it. When air is being evacuated above our heads, so in the upper levels of the atmosphere, it has to be filled in at the surface to replace the mass that's being ejected, or the air that's being ejected out of the column. So as that air is being evacuated up top, you get the current convergence at the surface, which helps to force up thunderstorms. And a lot of times, even if there's instability lacking, and for the most part, we're going to have a ton of instability already, it helps to overcome that and force thunderstorms up. So this is why the confidence level is so high that we are likely going to have a high impact event in parts of the deep south, and the potential for some strong, long-lived, long-track tornadoes is going to be there from Tuesday afternoon through Tuesday evening, and then early on Wednesday. And then that severe weather threat will continue Wednesday into places like Louisiana, maybe into southern Mississippi, and getting into Alabama and the panhandle of Florida. There's also going to be more of a marginal severe threat at this time anyway in the panhandle, or the peninsula of Florida. That's something we'll be tracking for Thursday. So again, when I say coast to coast with this storm, it's literally coast to coast. It's going to be impacting, Cascades, Sierra Nevadas, lower elevations of California right now, but it's just going to grow in strength and grow in intensity and size and scale and all of the above. And then eventually there goes that wind energy. And then this is what we'll be watching for Florida. We're going to wait to see if we are on here when we get the new 12Z update. We wasn't all the way through, and I think we actually have it. But if you're living or watching from Florida, and I know I have a few subscribers from Florida, this will certainly enhance a severe weather threat on Thursday. We have that wind energy getting very, very far south, which would help to make those storms spin a little bit and increase the intensity of those thunderstorms. So again, West Coast to East Coast, starting today as we speak right now with some of that heavy rain and snow, and then moving across the country before. So I keep on mentioning snow, and I'm going to show you here kind of the future radar, if you will, of the progression of this. So here we go on Saturday, this afternoon into the evening. You see where the heavy snow is. That moves through Nevada into Idaho. This is now Sunday afternoon. And then it continues to really ramp up. And it starts to get gnarly as we move into Tuesday morning and then especially Tuesday afternoon. So here we go. Again, our center of low pressure is right in here. Okay? The blue represents the heavy snow. This pink color is also something that has to be contended with. We're talking about the potential for ice in South Dakota, Nebraska, southwest Minnesota before snow arrives. Pretty much your worst case scenario for travel. You don't ever want ice, for one. For two, you don't want ice and then have snow cover it, because then it just makes things even more slick. So not only are we going to have ice in parts of South Dakota, we're going to have heavy snow, and I'm going to show you some of those forecast amounts in the model in a second here. And then we're going to have really the potential for blizzard conditions. So we're going to add the wind component on top of that. So it's just going to be ugly from the front range of Wyoming into Nebraska, into the Panhandle, where you see that blue there. And then South Dakota, especially from Pierre, South Dakota, west towards Rapid City, most of North Dakota, especially the southern portion. And then watch what happens. So now we're at Tuesday afternoon, and so you see the darker green here popping up. This is the model hinting that we are going to have some very ugly thunderstorms, and I think it has the location right as well, from north central Louisiana up into Arkansas, and then maybe extreme western Tennessee. It's really going to be right in here. That's where the best dynamics are meeting up with the instability. So we're going to continue to fine-tune that, and this forecast will be a little fine-tuned as we get a little closer to the event. These severe weather, I always talk about these severe weather setups. It's like a cake. You have several ingredients when you're making a cake. You have the eggs, the milk, the sugar. I always tell you guys I'm not a baker, so I don't really know what else goes into a cake, but you get the point. That there are a lot of ingredients that need to come together. Same thing for a severe weather event. You have a large scale area of low pressure, this big dip in the jet stream that kind of is the mechanism to get things going. But then you have these little mesoscale features, these small entities that have to come together as well to get everything going. And again, we hope that these don't come together, but there are signs that are kind of screaming that we are going to get at least some severe weather here on Tuesday night. And again, we're planning on going live through the duration of the event on Tuesday. So if you are finding this channel for the first time, welcome. We would love to have you. If you love talking and tracking the weather, you've come to the right place. We have a great time doing it, especially when the weather is not destructive. So please post in the comments where you're watching from. Consider subscribing. Give this a thumbs up if you are enjoying the content and enjoying this conversation that we are having. We'd love to have you alongside for the ride. I love getting your reports. And we love getting your weather reports from where you're tuning in from. It's been great meeting everybody. As we move into Wednesday afternoon, it's still snowing in parts of the Dakotas. So I mentioned about the ice, the wind, the snow. This is going to be a long duration event on the cold side of this system. I'll show you why in a second. There's just so much. Forgive me if I'm bouncing around everywhere. It's like squirrel. Because it's like, okay, you latch onto something, so feel free to just stop me in my tracks, because there really is so much going on with this system. Again, please post in the comments where you're watching from while I re-energize with some coffee. And so that I don't lose my voice. That's the other thing, too. All right, so this event is still ongoing on Thursday, and then I mentioned the potential for some severe weather. Look at this, too. Look at the pink showing up in places like western Pennsylvania. down the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, West Virginia, into the Delmarva, into D.C. I mean, we could be talking about ice accumulation in the mid-Atlantic as well. I mean, this is no doubt the highest impact storm we have seen so far this season because it's almost going to impact everybody. It's crazy. And then we're following the darker greens again down into the Florida Peninsula. I do think it'll be on a weakening trend, but if you do live in Central Florida or South Florida, there will be the potential there for some severe weather. It's not going to be anything like what our friends in Louisiana or Arkansas are going to see, or at least potentially going to see. But nonetheless, that threat is going to be there. And again, we've got you covered here, and we'd love to have you along for the ride. All right. So I know I met some friends from South Dakota the other day from the latest video. So if you are watching, or if anybody's watching from South Dakota or North Dakota, number one, South Dakota is literally one of my favorite states ever. It's awesome. If you've never been, it's great. It's fantastic. Watch what happens here. I'll start off when the snow starts and then roll through the period. So this is going to be early Tuesday morning. This is going to be 6 a.m. Central Time. And then it goes into Mountain Time. It's that weird shift there. So there we go. This is Tuesday night. And already by that time, we're talking about 6+ inches of snow from the Black Hills are over here. So really just to the east of the Black Hills toward Pierre. And then in the northern part of South Dakota. And then spilling on into North Dakota. Look at the snow really pile up as we get into Wednesday. So this is now through Wednesday evening. Through 5 to 6 o'clock on Wednesday, we're talking about the potential is there for really somebody likely right smack dab in the middle of South Dakota to get in on maybe 2 feet of snow. Now, I do caution, the model has a really tough time differentiating between precip changes. And I do think it's going to be really from Pierre over in this area that we are going to be dealing with some precip type issues early on before we really crank out all the snow. Regardless, this is going to be a significant event. It's one of those events that you just kind of stop what you're doing and just kind of hang out because the snow is going to be heavy. And I know in South Dakota, but I lived in Minnesota for 4 years. So same kind of deal. I know we know how to deal with the snow. It's the wind that's going to be involved with this. And I'm going to show you the wind forecast in a second because on top of potential for a foot or two of snow, we're going to have some strong winds. And this snow is going to extend into western Minnesota as well. So, again, high impact doesn't even begin to describe this system that's going to be moving in. It's just crazy. I think the highest impact, 2 feet of snow will impact you, but look at this. Even after the snow shuts off, and we should still have some light snow going on, these are in knots now, so we're going to add a little bit if you're more familiar with miles per hour on this forecast model. But where you see the yellow, that is where we're talking about 40 mile per hour wind gusts. Where you see the orange, that's closer to 45 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. So on top of the heavy snow, we're going to have wind gusts of about 40 to 50 miles an hour at times. Now, the question is, and it really doesn't matter, it's just for semantics, but do we get a blizzard? There is a set definition for a blizzard, and it is very hard to verify blizzard conditions. To get a blizzard, you need to have 3 hours. You need to verify this for 3 hours of sustained winds of 35 miles per hour with visibility is reduced to under a quarter of a mile. Snow doesn't even have to be falling. There are plenty of times where I dealt with, in Minnesota, ground blizzards where there's nothing falling from the sky, but because we have that powder up there in the upper Midwest and northern plains, it blows all over the place, and you literally can't see anything. You can look up and see the sun, but you can't see anything at ground level, and that is very, very dangerous. So I do think the potential is there to verify blizzard conditions, especially west of Pierre. And we all know it, especially if you live there And shout out to anybody that's tuning in from Nebraska or South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wyoming, Montana. You know it's flat, at least in part of those areas. That's why that's really like Blizzard Alley. We have Tornado Alley, and then we have Blizzard Alley. And that is where we see most of the blizzards through the United States, in the Dakotas, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, due in part because we have the fast land. Eddie says, close the airports fast. I would imagine that there are going to be major travel disruptions, certainly on the ground, but definitely with the air as well. If you have not seen my winter forecast, and certainly if you're rooting for a white Christmas, I posted my white Christmas update on who I think, at least from a couple of days ago, I posted on December 7th, who I think has the best chance to see a white Christmas. And the answer is a lot of us. The pattern is going to go bonkers, the weather pattern, and this is really the start. And if anybody's interested, we can take a look at some of that long-range stuff right now live. So please post that in the comments if that's something that interests you. And again, please post where you are watching from this morning. If you are just joining us, I saw we have a few new people on live with us. Again, we'd love to have you on board. Please consider subscribing. Certainly, if you like the conversation we are having together this morning, or I guess this afternoon now, it's 2 o'clock. Please consider subscribing. All right, so Eddie, I know we're not going to get a white Christmas in Puerto Rico, unless you consider that it's the sand on the beaches. But I know you know that. But anyway, if anybody has any questions, if anybody has any comments, I would love to know what the weather is doing where you are tuning in from. If it's sunny, I would love you to post that. If it is raining, if it is windy, all of those weather things, I would love to know what it's doing in your backyard right now. Please post that in the comments, or at least I want to know where you're tuning in from. I would like to know anyway. You don't have to write it, but I would like to know where you're tuning in from. So please post that. If you have any friends or family that live in the Dakotas, specifically, I mentioned high impact coast to coast storm, but the biggest impacts are no doubt going to be in the northern plains and then in parts of the deep south with that potential tornado outbreak. Please share this to them and let them know. I hope that they are keeping up with it. I hope they're keeping up with their local news station, because the threat is definitely real in the deep south. And certainly, I mean, you see all this pink on my screen here. And again, that's the model hinting at about 2 feet of snow. If you are just joining us, again, there's where the severe weather threat is. Now my telestrator won't shut off after it wouldn't turn on. That is where the severe risk is on Tuesday. And again, as I pointed out, if you are just joining us, it is really, really rare for the Storm Prediction Center to not only have this higher probability here in orange highlighted 4 days out, but it's December. It's not severe weather season. They had it highlighted 6 days out in the same area pretty much. There is a lot of confidence here when it comes to this storm. It's rare that we have this much confidence as well in the potential area for where the thunderstorms and potential tornadoes could set up. So again, just keep that in mind. I know we don't hype things on this channel. There's a lot of that garbage on social media. You hear me preaching about it all the time. So we talk about it, tell it like it is here. And I mean, there is a real risk for severe weather in that orange color, really from Little Rock down to Dallas to the east of Houston, and all of the above. I'm with you. I hope they're watching. They might be ice fishing. It is the early afternoon, and it is really cold, so they could be ice fishing. And I mean, that's a great thing. That's a great time. That's one of the things I miss about Minnesota specifically. It's like winter's done right up in those parts, especially when we get the snow, the snowmobiling, all that stuff. If you are just joining us, I'll show you where that storm system is now. I'm going to turn on the satellite again, and we're going to take you back out to the Pacific, okay? I also want to see here, if you stay, we can check on the Mauna Loa eruption on satellite. That's been really, really cool to see. But first, we'll look at mid-level water vapor. Again, it shows kind of the atmospheric motion here, but you can just already see what a behemoth this storm already is. There is our area of low pressure. There's our upper low. There's our big dip in the jet stream. And then all of this in the white and green is the moisture that is as a result of all the rain and snow that is falling out there as well. I'm going to turn on, let's see, we're going to go to, let's see if Go 17, the mesoscale channel, is still out over Hawaii. It is over Hawaii. All right, let's see here. All right, let's see if we can see any of the, we're going to get real close to this. And while we're kind of surging here, and again, I know we have a few more people joining. If you want to talk about the potential for severe weather, hit the like button or hit the thumbs up button. If you want to talk about the snow in the Dakotas, hit the thumbs up button. I'm just doing something fun here, looking for the lava on satellite because you can see the heat signature on infrared satellite. So I can get right back into that severe weather stuff in just a second if you stick around. For those just joining us, welcome. Post in the comments where you're tuning in from. Let's see here. We want the... It's not as pronounced on this color table. It's not as cool. But you can kind of see it. I'm going to pull up something else while we're doing that. So bear with me while I'm kind of looking at this. Again, post in the comments where you're watching from. I will go back to the water vapor imagery. So if you're, again, just joining us, you see what we're talking about. Massive, massive storm just getting underway. It's going to affect pretty much everybody in the lower 48 of the United States. So as I turn on the goes west, or now Go 17, to the Northeast Pacific, here we go. And again, just a crazy look. This is the visible satellite now. We had the water vapor on, but you can just see that spin there. Massive storm. It's going to be crazy. And we can go over to the impacts in just 1 second. So what I want to do while I'm doing that, just kind of watch in amazement there and have a conversation amongst yourselves. I would love to know, again, where you're tuning in from. Sorry, I sound like a broken record. I keep on saying that. But I really do want to know. I want to know what the weather is like where you're watching from. If you're watching from the west coast of the U.S., are you seeing the rain? Because we are certainly seeing that on radar. It's heavy around Sacramento. And it's very heavy around. All right, so let's see here. Almost have it up. I'll have to check to see reports. I don't know if I'm seeing any of the red lava on the satellite anymore. Let me just double check that and see what is going on. Back up the timestamp. And let's see. Let's hit the play button on this. All right, so we're going to come back to that. I have another satellite channel loading. But here is our storm spinning out west. The rain is very, very heavy in western Oregon, Seattle area, also Washington, and moving into California, of course, especially the Sierra Nevadas. I want to see, just got it out. It looks like you can still see. I'm going to pull over another radar image. You can see some of the, or a satellite image, I should say, excuse me. You can see a little bit of that right there in the last few frames, some of the smoke from the eruption there on Mauna Loa. So some cool stuff there. It does not look like the lava is as pronounced. I know one of the reports was that the lava was really, really, really slowing down. And maybe that'd be great if it shuts off before it reaches the highway there that connects Hilo with Kona. All right. So for all the people that are just tuning in, bunch new people on, welcome. We talk and track all things weather. We would love to have you on board. If you hit subscribe, you will be notified when we post new content. If you hit the alert bell anyway. We're planning on going live on Tuesday during the severe weather to keep you updated. If you have friends or family that live in Louisiana and Mississippi, let them know. This is going to be really the main area of concern here during the entirety of this event. We are going to have a high impact potential blizzard. Regardless, it's going to be very windy, whiteout conditions in the Dakotas. It's going to be very snowy, up to 2 feet of snow, and there's going to be ice. It's going to be a mess. But in the Deep South, we are really, really concerned about the potential for tornadoes. And there could be some big ones again. We just had the year anniversary of the Mayfield, Oklahoma tornado. So again, tornadoes in December are rare. They're not impossible if the conditions are there. I always say it. Mother Nature doesn't care what month it is. If the conditions are right, if the conditions are there, it can happen at any time. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing come together with a lot of confidence too, as we have these higher probabilities still. You see that in that orange color. I'm going to take you back now to the overall progression of this. And what I just showed you on the water vapor imagery is right out in here. Man, my telestrator is just not playing with me today. But this big dip in the jet stream, we're really focused on that big red, as that big jet streak, as we call it, kind of rounds the base of the trough. That's where we are really going to watch this ramp up. Watch what happens. You see it go, and then as it ejects out of the base, that's when this thing goes nuts. I mean, it blows up. We have the low right in here, right over central Nebraska, and this is where it kind of cuts off from the flow. So I keep on saying long duration event as well, as we have the severe weather ramping up in the Deep South on Tuesday and into Wednesday. This is now Tuesday at about 5 to 7 o'clock, depending upon what time zone you're in. We're going to have this upper low just parked over Nebraska, over South Dakota, and just it's going to be snowing like crazy. Then the wind cranks up. What we are most concerned with, though, I mean, still, that's going to be a high-impact event. Whether we officially verify a blizzard or not, it's going to be very, very close. It's the severe weather threat in here. And I was talking about this before, and if you're just joining us, I'm going to break it down again because we have a lot of people now watching the live stream, and I thank you for finding us, and thank you for tuning in. If you are enjoying this and finding this informative, please hit the thumbs up and consider joining this weather community. We always talk and track the weather together, and I love to know what's going on where you are, so post that in the comments section below. But those arrows, these streamlines here that are kind of blowing up out of Missouri into Iowa, into Minnesota, now south to north. But then if you notice the streamlines here in the light gray, they come out of Texas and then work their way and just blast over Arkansas. We have that kind of V shape opening up. It's diaffluent flow, as we call it. It's air being evacuated from the upper levels of the atmosphere. Well, if there's air leaving, you got to replace it to it's the conservation of mass equation. You got to fill it up again at the surface with convergence. And when air collides at the surface, it forces things up. So you have the air kind of being pulled up by that upper level divergence. It's almost like if you're sitting in a bathtub or in a pool and you kind of pull your hands apart, the water has to kind of fill up from when you pull your hands up, and you can kind of visualize it like that. The atmosphere is just like a pretty much water, behaves very similarly. And that's what's going to help to force up these thunderstorms. So even if we do have a lack of instability, which there should be a ton anyway, this can make up for it. And this is one of the reasons why we are so concerned. We also have, because this is becoming negative tilted, this trough, and if my telestration was working, I would be able to draw it for you. But follow the mouse. We have this kind of U shape like this, and the trough is oriented northwest to southeast. This is oftentimes we see the biggest storms. It increases the temperature gradient, or the difference in temperature between the storm. That's where these storms feed off of. I know we talk a lot about hurricanes and tropical weather on this channel as well. Tropics, those systems get their strength from the ocean heat content. Mid-latitude cyclones get their energy, which is what this is, from temperature differences. So just the other day, I mean, it was 89 degrees in Miami or 82 degrees in Miami at like 11 o'clock, but it was like 27 below in northern North Dakota. So these huge temperature differences kind of feed and energize these storms. And that's exactly what we are going to see here. Again, really starting right now, this is just the birth of it. This is just the start, and then really, really ramping up as we get into Tuesday. And again, I'm planning on going live on Tuesday afternoon into the evening, really starting on Tuesday morning to kind of set the stage of how this could play out. We're going to look at things in real time, look at the environment, see if things are still on track, because that's when you can kind of see the mesoscale features coming into play, the small scale features that dictate how a severe weather potential or potential outbreak is going to behave. So we're going to take a look at that starting on Tuesday morning live. I'm going to go live on this channel, on our Weather Whiplash channel. So again, we would love to have you on board for that. Certainly if you live in those areas, this is something I want you to pay attention to. But then right out in here, through Louisiana, Missouri, Arkansas, we're going to be under the gun as well. And again, planning on going live at least multiple times. And then certainly once we get storms rolling, we're going to keep you updated on Tuesday. So again, if you want to stay informed and you want to stay up and you want to track this with us in real time, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We would love to have you. If you are just tuning in, I know we have a lot of new people, so thank you again for tuning in and finding us on this Saturday afternoon. Here's how this thing could go. You got it, Eddie. I appreciate you always. I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for coming along for the ride. I hope you get some good coffee this afternoon, or maybe tomorrow. It might be too late in the day. Maybe I'm the only crazy person that's drinking coffee at almost 2:30 Eastern time. Here is how this storm could play out. And I think this is the European solution. The GFS is very similar. There are some timing differences, but I just want to kind of show you how we start things off as rain in eastern North Dakota. Hey, Ian, what is going on in the Bahamas? I would assume that you are seeing some rough surf as well from that big storm in the North Atlantic. And if you stick around, if you would like, we can take a look at that. Just let me know in the comments if you want to look at that big storm in the North Atlantic that's generating the rough surf and the crazy rip currents. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. Look at this. Look at this really ramp up. And remember I was showing you that dip in the jet stream? Watch what happens. I mean, it just explodes. That's Monday night. And then there it is on Tuesday night. And this is when it's going to be... There's your area of low pressure. There's the very heavy snow that's transitioned from rain to ice and now to the heavy snow. And then we see these green streaks. Very dark. That's the model indicating some high precip rates. That's where we're going to have the severe weather potential ejecting out of Oklahoma and Texas and then really blasting on through Louisiana. Now, one of the things that is going to be fine-tuned over the next few days is the exact area. It had been looking like it may have been more Mississippi. It's kind of shifted back to the west a little bit. And just by looking at this representation here, this is going to be, let's see, let me go to the fresh. We just got the 12Z stuff, the early morning balloon runs in. So I'm looking at this in real time with you. And there's not much change, but this is going to be Tuesday evening. We may start to see that risk area shift maybe a little further west. because this is the late afternoon, early evening on Tuesday, and we're looking specifically at the darker green. Again, that's the model seeing the higher preset rates and all the stuff there. So it's just nuts. Hey, Mary, welcome to the channel. Kansas City. We'll take a look at Kansas City for you. You're not kidding. Kansas City is one of those crazy places to forecast for. It's always a challenge. Thank you so much for subscribing, and we're going to go take a look at the Kansas City area for you. But I think we're going to be at least on, probably at this point anyway, the northern side of the severe weather threat. It's probably going to be some thunderstorms and rain. I think the highest potential for you is going to be just to your south, closer to Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana. We are in that, and this is what I was talking about here. So this is the risk area for that Tuesday storm. And, of course, we're up here. Let me zoom in so it pops back up on the map. But here is Kansas City, and then this is for Tuesday again. The main severe weather threat is going to be tied to where we have a warm front. It's going to be kind of draped right in here. Let me do my very terrible drawing of a warm front across your screen. And that helps to introduce wind shear at the surface because we have the winds out of the southwest above, and it's going to be kind of right in here, pretty much right smack dab where the Storm Prediction Center has that, again, that rare risk area, having an outlook this far in advance. But more specifically, take a look at and get a little deeper into Missouri. Let's find out. I'm not sure if you're a football fan either, Mary, but I think Kansas City might end up doing it again this year. They look crazy. I know they just lost, but they look crazy good again. So here's Tuesday afternoon. So you start off your morning dry. You'll probably see some extra clouds. And then as this comes rolling in on Tuesday, you see the green start to pop up, and that's the rain. The darker the green, the heavier the rain is going to be. So now this is about 5 o'clock in your afternoon. Love it. You are a Chiefs fan. One of my best friends is a Bills fan. I congratulated him last year when there was 13 seconds left. I'm like, that's all. You beat the Chiefs. No, you didn't. You have Patrick Mahomes on the other side of the field. Still the most insane thing I've ever seen, I think, in sports. Anyway, back to the weather. I love sports too. So if anybody has sports, I'm a Steeler fan. Down year. It was to be expected. It's okay. We've done a lot in our past. And then, so here we go. I mean, this is where we could see the extent of the severe weather kind of maybe sneaking into southern Missouri. Again, at least some really heavy rain. But at least at this point, we are seeing the strongest of the weather stay down south. I'll let you know if it starts to kind of right back up. But nonetheless, that's something we were watching. Hey, what's going on, man? Are you talking about the outlook? I hope you don't mean me. But we can talk more about that. It's nothing. Again, I always say it's nothing to get anxious about, and it's the last thing that I want to do. Is make anybody anxious, especially in the areas that we are talking about, the severe weather threat. But I also want to make sure that people are being aware. That's why, again, we don't hype. Okay, like I hate that. It's one of the reasons why I started this channel, and because there's so much of it on social media, I just want to talk about the weather. Again, it's why I just love the weather. That's what I went to school for, and I just love it. Hey, Indonesia, that's awesome. Welcome to the channel. Appreciate you tuning in. Hope you are liking what we are talking about, minus the severe weather. No, we have a lot of people tuning in now. Saw a lot of new people arrive. So if you have a specific area that you want to focus on weather-wise, please post that in the comments or just let me know where you're tuning in from. When it comes to this system, this coast-to-coast system, that's, again, getting underway as we speak. And if you're just joining, I mean, here it is. I mean, just a crazy, crazy storm. You see that spiral right there. That's the visible satellite Hey, April, South Georgia. We're going to go check out South Georgia. We're going to be watching closely as we get into Friday morning. I'm getting my days mixed up, but it's Friday morning because here's what we're talking about: the severe weather risk area for Tuesday. It's going to move to the west or to the east a little bit. I'll show you the risk area for the next day. It kind of moves in to right along the Gulf Coast into southern Mississippi, the Florida Panhandle, and then closer to New Orleans. And then as we move into Friday, that's when we are going to have the shot for the potential for some nasty thunderstorms. So I think we'll be energized here. There is still a lot of uncertainty as to how it kind of builds once we get beyond that main risk area. So that's something that we're going to be fine-tuning as we get more data in. Now that the upper low is working its way on shore, it gets into our weather balloon network that we shoot up. And we can sample that thing more. We're going to get a better read on what the wind energy in the upper levels of the atmosphere is looking like. Hey, Maddie, what's going on in New Hampshire? Always, my man. Hey, in South Jersey, what is going on? Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. And we are quiet. And I think, in South Jersey, we're going to get some rain out of this. It's not going to be too high impact, but if you are watching, I'll post this in the comments. I don't know if anybody that's tuning in from the U.S. is interested. Let me know. I want to get this gauge if you are rooting for a white Christmas. So I'm going to post in the comments here the potential for a white Christmas, and more if you're not interested in that per se. It goes into the long range pattern of December, which I think is crazy. So in South Jersey, we could end up getting a nice couple of snowstorms rolling on through. Now, there are some questions, and I explain that in detail. So if you are a weather nerd like a lot of us on this channel, check that out. We'll get into where I think we're going to see the white Christmas first, and then and I'll pin that for you. And then we kind of break down why that's the case. And really, and again, you can stop me. We can talk about the severe weather. Again, I want you guys to kind of dictate where we talk about. There's so much going on from that big storm in the North Atlantic, bringing the rough surf to the east coast of the U.S., into the Caribbean as well. I know I have a lot of people watching from the Caribbean, so we can certainly posting that as well. And all of the above. Hey, David Smith. Yeah, so that was a crazy one too. That one that just went through. I have friends in southern Minnesota, so we were watching that, and that kind of narrow strip. So you got the party started on the early side. Now for Sioux Falls, right there, of course. Wrong map. Sorry about that. I think we're going to be in a weird spot unless, if you're a fan of snow, you may not get a ton. Here's the deal. You're going to start out as rain. You're going to a ton of warm air surging up on Tuesday morning. You see the pink there representing we could have some ice involved as well in Sioux Falls. And then we have a changeover, and then you see the green there, and then we're going to finish as maybe a burst of snow. And we're kind of in that corner here, right at the bottom of your screen, where we could get several inches of snow, but the main totals are going to be just where it's cold enough, just to the west of you and to the northwest of you. Now, any kind of shift in that track, if that dips to the east a little bit, then we're going to get blasted. Again, we're not that far from, again, Sioux Falls right on in here, for those that don't know. and for perspective, because the map is a little noisy with a bunch of colors going on. But look at that. I mean, we're talking 1 to maybe 2 feet of snow. It's maybe a little hot. I mentioned earlier that the European, it's a 10-to-1 ratio of rain, of liquid to snow, but oftentimes it sees sleet as snow and just puts it all in there. So when there's precip involved, you can't just take that for what it's worth. You got to bring up the temperature profiles and really get in there. So this is just an estimate here, but again, a very, very high impact storm coming your way. Maybe not as high impact as your friends to the west and northwest, but if you do like the snow, at least you were able to get into some of that. I know we had some people watching from the Bahamas. So again, while I'm checking out that storm in the North Atlantic, I'm going to switch the satellite over. Again, if you're just joining us, please post in the comments where you're watching from. If you love talking and tracking the weather, we would love to have you on board. I love getting your reports all the time from across the country and across the world. We have a lot of people that watch in the Caribbean and met some new people from Indonesia today. So that's awesome. Look at this beast in the North Atlantic. So this was the system that had that very, very small window to become tropical. It never did. So it didn't get a name. Look at this thing, though. Look how powerful. I mean, it looks beautiful on satellite. When you see it go dark like that, we're losing the daylight. I'm on the visible satellite channel. And I wanted to show you the visible just because of how pretty it looks. We are getting some really nasty weather in the Azores. So if anybody's tuning in from the Azores, you know what I'm talking about. But look at this thing. It's crazy. And the thing of this one is that as we back out to kind of show you the scope here, and again, I'll let the radar kind of refresh. I have to put this in play. We're going way, way back. And we lose the channel. But here's the storm up here. We're getting, life-threatening rip currents in Florida. That's where I am. And, rescues were there and all that stuff. And then we're also, see, this is why I need coffee. Lost my train of thought again. It was really early this morning. And then into the Caribbean, the life-threatening rip current. So don't go into the water, or at least make sure you're a lifeguard and paying close attention. Because, this thing here, this lone storm, so far away, 2,500 miles from the southeast of the United States. Large breaking waves on the east coast of Florida and life-threatening rip currents. So it is crazy. All right, let me see. I have a request for... All right, the volcano that just erupted there, too. I'm going to see if I can get a satellite channel over Indonesia, so stick with me. Hey, Don, what's going on the West Coast? I love the West Coast of Florida. It's awesome. I'm just north of Orlando, so frequent that a lot. All right, Jamal says, I see on the Euro model in Nassau, Bahamas on the 17th and 18th of December, only reaching a high temperature of 64 and 68 degrees. I have not looked for the Bahamas specifically. I don't doubt it, though. This front means business. This is the one that could bring the severe weather threat to the lower 48. It's the one that is, I'll show you where it is right now. I need to switch back over my satellite to the, nope, wrong Pacific. We need to go to the northwest or northeast Pacific. Here it is. So this is what's going to be coming down here in about a week. Hey, man, I appreciate that. Thank you so much again. Yeah, I'm hoping it was better for you if you're a fan of the snow. I'm not sure if you're a fan of the snow or not. But I wish it was not as ugly as 2 inches of rain either. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to try to find out, see if we can... I don't have the Indonesia satellite channel readily with me here. But if you stick with me, I'll try to find it. What's happening in California today? Great question. Well, this is I had the satellite channel up of Mauna Loa. Oh, see, they just moved the satellite on me. So this is what we just looked at here. This is GO 17, one of the new fancy satellites. This is the natural color here. They just switched it over to California because of this. Now we're going to go take a look. Welcome. I appreciate you tuning in. So here's what's going on in California. I'm going to shorten up the frame here. There is this big low. And again, for those just joining us, this is the start of this crazy coast-to-coast storm all up and down the West Coast. So you see that spin there. Let me turn on the animation. And all of this Pacific moisture is just being thrown right on in to California and then right on in to Oregon, Washington, Cascades getting a ton of snow. I don't know what part of California that you are talking about specifically, but we're going to go up and down the coast. If you give me a specific location, we can take a look at that a little closer, but we're going to get into all of those radar sites. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get off the satellite channel. I'm going to go back to the individual radar sites. And I know specifically when we looked earlier that it was raining as expected in San Francisco, Sacramento. Look at the heavy rain. I mean, it's coming down. Sacramento, it is raining really, really hard. That's what the darker orange and reds are, the yellows. Brentwood, San Francisco, getting in on that as well. So just a lot of heavy rain falling there. Let me get that other satellite channel up. But boy, it is just... Let me see what is going on. Trying to find a satellite channel for my new friend here over the Indonesia volcano that just erupted. Right now, what we're looking at on the screen is the radar image out of San Jose, California, where a ton of heavy rain is moving through. We have snow on the west. Yes. Here they're having power failures in snow. So here's what I'm going to do. There is some heavy snow up in the, and I know they historically anyway have issues with power in that part, especially in the higher elevation. So this is the radar out of Reno. We'll go back to Sacramento, and there's the heavy snow. So if you're familiar with Yosemite National Park, they are getting nailed right now with some very heavy snow. Down into Mammoth Lakes. And Mammoth Lakes, I mean, could see 40 to 50 inches of snow when all is said and done. I mean, big, crushing snow in the higher elevations of the Sierra Nevada. So I don't doubt it at all. Again, and I keep on saying this, and I don't know if I said it recently, but this storm is literally going to impact everybody, some much more than others. I mean, right now we're getting very heavy rain in California, Oregon, Washington. But the impacts are only going to ramp up as well. Hey, Jack in Winnipeg, good afternoon. Couple of millimeters of freezing rain this morning. Yeah, freezing rain, I think that's one thing we can agree on, that freezing rain is the worst. I don't know that anybody likes it. I don't. Because you can't do anything with it. It's just like you're close to snow, but not really. Let's see. All right, we have... Hey, Dawson, what's going on in Iowa? I don't think that... We're going to take a look at that for you. We, unfortunately, and I don't know what part of Iowa you're watching from or you're interested in. So if you post that in the comments, I can hone in a little bit for you. But right smack dab in the middle of your screen is Iowa, of course. And in Dubuque. Awesome. Dubuque. I love Dubuque. So right over here, of course, on the eastern side, unfortunately, it looks to be most, if not all, rain. How this system is coming through, it's going to put Dubuque on the warmer side. So the center of low pressure is out over Nebraska. For our big snows in Dubuque, we want the low to be pretty much right over central Illinois towards Lake Michigan, and then kind of working its way up towards the Great Lakes region in that general area. So what has happened here, we're going to have the low to our west, and note the green again. That indicates where the rain is. We're just going to be pumping in a ton of warm air, and the reason for that is that this jet stream is going to be screaming, absolutely screaming. So this is the wind speed at 500 millibars, which is about 15,000 to 20,000 feet above your head, okay? And this is the catalyst here for the severe weather that is going to be working its way in on Tuesday. But what it's going to be doing for Iowa, we're going to be too far north to get the severe weather, I think. But because we have this extremely powerful jet streak, it's going to be just pumping in tons of warm air, unseasonably warm air for Iowa standards on Tuesday. And unfortunately, we may get in on a little bit of snow at the end, but this is likely going to be all rain. I'm going to try to look up the temperature perspective for you. And awesome. Hey, nice meeting you as well. Again, I'm going to try to find that satellite image for you. I'll post it in the community section of the Indonesia volcanic eruption there, as I have time to find that for you. So if you hit the subscribe button, look for that in the community page. I promise I will do my best to get on that very, very quickly after we end this live feed. As well. For all the new people joining in, thank you so much. I see we have a lot of people on here. We talk and track all things weather. If you love the weather, love talking about it, love tracking it, you've come to the right place. Please hit that subscribe button. Again, we're focused on this video on a couple of things, really. This coast-to-coast storm that is just getting going now on the west coast of the U.S. And then the potential from the same storm, to have a blizzard on the northern side, northern plains, and then to have a severe weather outbreak on the southern side. So it could be an ugly couple of days. Again, some people will be impacted more than others, unfortunately. The highest impacts are going to be in the northern plains and in the deep south, especially from... yes, and be safe out there as well. Be safe as well. It's a little bit of a different volcano than the one that's going on in Mauna Loa. That's certainly a little more, the one that's going on in Mauna Loa is the Shield volcano. So I don't want to say it's more peaceful, but it's not like that one there. It's, those things blow up and have the potential to do that. All right, Dawson, what's going on? Again, I'm going to check on that for you. I've not looked at the rainfall amounts for Iowa, so we're going to do that in real time together. And while I am looking that up and kind of looking over and breaking down these model solutions, the one that's just coming in here, please post in the comments where you're watching from. Hey, what is going on, Weather Watcher? Great video again last night. Good to see you as well, my friend. So we're going to take a look at the Iowa solution. Just give me 1 sec. You can feast your eyes on this, again, crazy storm that is getting going. Got to find Iowa in my model things. Stand by. All right, here we go. Hey, and we're happy to have you. We are happy to have you along for the ride, so I appreciate your support and I appreciate you finding us. We tend to go live every Saturday and then as warranted. So we'll be live on Tuesday, probably starting in the morning, and then as things ramp up with that potential severe weather outbreak. Charlotte, it's interesting to see if we're going to get that snow in Charlotte as well. I always tend to go against snow in Charlotte, but the weather pattern is going to get crazy. All right, so here we go with the rain in Iowa. So this is going to be through the period now. So at least the European solution is estimating about an inch. I would have to look further to give you my own opinion. I've not looked that far north in terms of the rain. I've just been focused on the snow and then the severe weather threat. So I'd have to dive in this a little bit further to give you my thoughts on it exactly. But the model here is spitting out of around an inch, give or take. And that's certainly plausible. There's going to be a ton of moisture. I wanted to show you, too, the temperature here. So let me, just to show you, this is the anomaly. Look at this. So this is on Tuesday evening. We're 10 to 15 degrees above normal. But on when, it's crazy. We're about 20 degrees above normal. And again, this is how we get these. Again, it's not guaranteed. It's not set in stone that we're going to have a severe weather outbreak in Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma areas, and that deep south bullseye there. But it's looking pretty likely. And this is how it happens because we're just drawing up. This storm is just drawing up so much warm air from the Gulf of Mexico and just pulling it in. 20 degrees above normal is crazy. And we're going to be talking here, pushing 40, 50. It's going to be shorts weather for Iowans. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm obsessed with winter weather too. It's super fun to track. It's super fun. And it is, it's certainly, I don't want to say it's not deadly because it can be if you're out on the roads and if there's, obviously if you get stuck out on the road or if there's a lot and you start talking about trees coming down and roofs coming down like that, like Buffalo just saw that Great Lake event. But more often, it's not like a hurricane where you never root for a hurricane, of course, because those are going to be destructive no matter the strength, no matter whatever. And those are just no fun. At least you can play with the snow. And again, if you're paying attention and being smart about it, winter weather, I shouldn't say winter weather, snow is fun because of course then we have the freezing rain, which we were just talking about and for Manitoba, and yikes, that's crazy. Hey man, I appreciate that. No, every time you go live, I always hit on that as well. So you're up there, you're always popping up as well. So I love it. So keep up the great work as well. I'll have to check out that video a little bit later. Yeah, it always seems like when it looks like it's snow, it's always right on that line in there as well. Hey, what's going on, Johnny? Yeah, hoping for some snow. I know. So don't lose hope, okay? I don't think you're getting it. Well, I know you're not getting it this time. But while I have a lot of people here, and again, please keep posting in the comments where you're tuning in from, I'm going to pull up kind of the long range here. To just kind of show you, and forgive the blank screen, I'm just changing these models over in real time to kind of show you because there were a lot of people, I want snow. The weather pattern should get crazy. Cold air damming is fun. I lived in Roanoke, Virginia for several years. And the cold air damming setups, they were a you-know-what to forecast. But they were extremely fun. That's where it really pays to to live in that area, to just know how it goes. Maddie, New Hampshire, I think you have a really good shot at a white Christmas this year. See, this is what I mean. The whole squirrel thing, I get sidetracked real quickly. So if you see me doing that, just reel me back in, because I start going off on tangents like crazy. At least when he said about Kansas City, I almost started talking about football again. We were talking to another person from Kansas City earlier today. What I want to show you, nope, don't want that. See, stick with it. Well, I'm going to show you the overall pattern, and I'm going to show you why I think that things are going to go crazy beyond this big storm. So we're going to look beyond this storm now. So here we go with I'm going to go to the North American view. We are going to go. All right. So there's a lot of stuff going on this map here, okay? My telestrator is not working, so it's not as easy to highlight things, but I'm going to use my trusty little mouse arrow. So we're going to go old school here. It always seems to not work when I need it the most. But here's our deal over the next few days. So you see this blue and green. These are the 500 millibar height anomalies. The darker the red, the higher the heights, the higher the pressure. The darker the greens and blues, the lower the heights, the lower the pressure. So that's storminess versus relatively warm and nice weather. So as we go out into the middle, look at this. So this is, okay, so this is interesting. This is the first time I'm looking at the morning update. So I need to really dissect this. But the European wants a big snowstorm on the east. This is not my forecast. This is just what this particular model is showing, but it would go in line with my winter forecast and my white Christmas outlook that I just posted. I do have that pinned to the top of this live stream here if you want to take a look. But basically is you see what the deal is and why we have it here. And I know a lot of people were like, okay, this is coming to the east right now. This is coming to the east. We have a ridge out in Alaska. Okay, they just broke all-time records for warmth, okay? We have a negative EPO. For my weather nerds, you know what the EPO is. It's the East Pacific Oscillation. When that's negative, we typically get Arctic air intrusions. And that's what we are seeing on the western side of the United States. Good morning, Jonathan. Great name. Love that name. We have the blocking over Greenland. For those that want snow in the east, you want to have the Greenland block. And where you see all this red and brown up here, that is the blocking over Greenland. So that's a good winter setup, good snowstorm setup. The interesting thing here is, look at what happens. We have this whole big connection here of anomalous high pressure. Look at all of these greens and blues. All of these are going to be storms. There's cold trapped underneath, and we have storms rolling right over the Pacific. And, I mean, again, this is one model run, but it goes in line with what I talked about in my White Christmas outlook. And again, if you haven't seen that, I would love if you take a look. I have that pinned at the top of the live stream here. If you want to show your kids, again, I'm going to do another one of another White Christmas update on December 19th, the week of Christmas, because again, the jet stream's really wavy. It's crazy right now, so it's hard to kind of hone in on things, but the way that this is going, it should be a rockin' second half of December in terms of winter weather and in terms of stormy weather. If this were to come into fruition, there will be a very big storm here. This is on December 16th. I mean, that would be one of your classic nor'easters. You still have a little bit of ridging. You have that Greenland block that would keep things locked in, that would keep the storm tied to the coast. If you watch that White Christmas update or outlook for who I think has the best chance to see a White Christmas, the main question I have is right along the I-95 corridor, like New York, Philly, D.C., Boston. I just don't know if the cold air can make it there just the way we're missing one of the things that I would say to give a slam dunk that we're going to have snow stick around for Christmas. I'm going to fine tune that though on December 19th. So if you subscribe, you'll see that update. And I hope you do. Again, we have a lot of fun talking about and tracking the weather. You know, it has been a while. So, you know, I think, so here's the deal with that. I'm going to agree with you partially. Like, we have this huge ridge over Florida and the deep south that's keeping us baking. I mean, it's stupid hot down in Florida right now. Like, I hate it, okay? I like the snow. I'm in the wrong place, I know. But it's stupid hot. When we're back to the low to mid 80s again today. And that is dictating the southern tier of the country, the southern half of the country. So I think we're going to keep things very warm right on the south. More of that typical La Nina pattern. We are typically warm and dry. But the northern side, about a month ago, I put out my winter weather outlook, and we talked about that. I think that the hammer was going to come down on the Great Lakes and northern plains specifically. I mean, it's not too much of going out on a limb because that's where you typically would see a really bad winter, or good, depending upon your perspective on the winter. If you like the snow, then it's good. If you don't, then it's not good. But it looked like it was going to be cold and snowy, like through the northern plains and then really into the Great Lakes region. And specifically, again, getting into January, I think this is going to be fast forwarding up 2 weeks. I thought that we might be a little warmer getting into that, and then the hammer comes down in January. So I think this is going to be fast forwarded up a couple of weeks, which would be great for Christmas for those that want snow on Christmas. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed for all of that, if you want it. But again, going out, I mean, look at this. This is now on December 20th. And now, again, this is one model run. I can go to the ensemble forecast. But, I mean, it paints the same thing. So it's crazy. I do think the second half of, that holds. So, I mean, as I'm looking at this in real time, since making that first forecast, I agree with it. I think it's gonna be crazy. So it's a good time to subscribe and come back. Again, I love knowing what's going on across where you live. I love getting those reports. So join our channel. Hit that subscribe button. Certainly, if you like what you see, if you're enjoying the conversation we're having, hit the thumbs up button. We talk all things weather, of course, the Caribbean, the lower 48, and sometimes we go out of that realm. We were talking about Indonesia earlier, and we were talking about the Philippines, and we had one of those typhoons going over there. So we have a lot of fun on this channel when the weather is not destructive. But I'm planning again on going live on Tuesday multiple times of the day. In the morning to kind of set the stage, because we do have the potential for that severe weather outbreak, and we have a lot of people just joining us. So I do want to get back and talk about that. And again, you guys can you can dictate what we talk about. You guys can drive, so to speak. And if you want to talk about something else, a different area of the country, post it in the comments. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you. That means a lot. So here we go. And this is the main concern. Aha. All right. When will we get snow in New Jersey? Did you just come on? If not, give me a few minutes, because then I'll go back to that map. I think the week leading up to Christmas, we could have something in New Jersey. Depending upon what part. I think interior is going to be a little more favored for that. But I'm not sold on it. I'm not sold on it just yet. It's going to be stormy. It's going to be cold. Which favors a storm for you in New Jersey at about that time. But specifics are obviously going to be hazy because that's like what, 7 to 14 days out. Garwin, New Jersey. Awesome. And that is me too. I love a good blizzard. And that's what I mean, okay, blizzards can't, they'll be dangerous if you're out in them, but like when you're just sitting home, hanging out, they're awesome. And when they're not cutting out power, okay, we don't want to get too crazy here. We don't want to lose power because then that becomes a whole other issue. But anyway, so back to the severe weather stuff, because this is what I'm most concerned with. We talked earlier, and if you're just joining us, welcome. Please post in the comments where you are watching from this afternoon now. The Storm Prediction Center 2 days ago started highlighting this, and we were talking about this last week on this channel with you guys, that the likelihood of a severe weather event was going to be unfolding early next week. You the man. I appreciate you. But notice the Storm Prediction Center highlighted this 6 days out. That is, okay, number one, unheard of, especially with this orange color. That's the higher probabilities. That's unheard of during severe weather season. It's December, and they highlighted that. Again, this is a very rare setup. It can happen. Of course, remember last year at about this time, we had that devastating tornado in Mayfield, Kentucky. It certainly does happen. I always say it, Mother Nature does not care what month it is. If the ingredients are there, the ingredients are there. And unfortunately, on Tuesday, it has looked like the ingredients were going to be there. So that is going to be the main risk area for severe weather. I am going to first show you the upper level setup. That's the most important part here. And then I'm going to take you kind of state by state with a wide view. What we're seeing now, if anybody's tuning in from Washington, Oregon, and into California, this is the start. This is the start of this multi-day high-impact weather event across the country. Yeah. So, and this is a good point that Weather Watcher's bringing up too. It's crazy rare to get model consensus on a run-to-run basis, and that is also, as you mentioned there, leading to that confidence. Yeah, 100-year storm every other. It is crazy. It is happening more often than not, and certainly as you warm the atmosphere, that does tend to happen. More moisture does a lot of things. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the channel. I'm just gonna take a quick sip. Talk amongst yourself real quick. Didn't want to lose my voice because I didn't even realize how long we've been on here. It's been a while, but I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys are having a good time. Even though we're talking about something potentially destructive as we get into Tuesday, I want to be clear about that. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hey, what's going on, man? I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thanks for finding us. You are right about that for sure, Jonathan. All right, so here we go. The darker red is that wind energy. So right now, I'll show you. Stand by. I'm going to go back to show you actually in real time. My friend, what is going on in the Dominican Republic? Hope you are doing well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that 500 millibar map in just a second. I'm going to turn on the water vapor channel and show you exactly in real time what is happening. Okay, so here is, I want the mid-level channel. Aha. So what part where are you tuning in from? And actually, I do have a link posted and pinned at the top of this live stream here that takes you to a video that I just did on Monday that highlights those chances state by state. So if you want to check that out, that would be awesome. Depending upon what part, if you're inland, I think we have a shot. And that's the answer to both of you. And again, I'm going to fine tune that forecast on Monday, December 19th, the week of Christmas, for you, as well as we kind of get more things, because the atmosphere is really, really fluid. There's so much going on. But here's the deal right now. You see this spin. Okay, this is our upper level low. That is our upper low. And this is going to be the trigger mechanism for all of this nasty weather. It's the reason why we're getting the heavy rain and snow in California and into Oregon and Washington. Xavier, what's going on, buddy? Appreciate you tuning in. Yes, so here is so you see that little risk thing, this area over here. This is the severe risk for Tuesday. This is the storm system responsible for it. So now we're going to go back. Remember this dip in the jet stream. Remember this shape here. This is our trough, okay? Our dip in the jet stream, our elongated area of low pressure. There's all the storminess. Sometimes I do get crazy with the telestrator, so again, just stop me. Here we go over to the actual, this is the 500 millibar map. So at what we were just looking at from the model perspective. So there's that big dip in the jet stream. That red color there is that wind maximum at the base of this trough. So it now ejects out of the Four Corners region, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, and just screams across the plains. So what we have going on here, our low pressure right in here. See where my mouse is? Give that a thumbs up if you see where the mouse is. My telestration decided not to work on me today, my little marker. Of course it did. It's probably just the computer needing to be restarted. I'm not an engineer, but that also happens a ton. So as we move into Tuesday and into Thursday, Tuesday into Wednesday, skipped Wednesday. Notice this big red. That is that big wind energy maximum, okay? So the potential for severe weather is going to lie, the crazy severe weather, the potential for those big tornadoes that we see and hate from Louisiana into Arkansas. That's where we are going to be watching closely. And the reason for that, and the reason why there's been such high confidence here is because, number one, the storm is huge. But number two, see these gray lines on your screen? Those are the streamlines. The wind direction at 500 millibars, about 15,000 to 20,000 feet above the atmosphere, racing through Missouri, up into Iowa, pumping a ton of warm air into those areas. But then down here, notice how it kind of splits off? Follow the mouse there through Arkansas and into Tennessee. The air in the upper levels of the atmosphere is being pulled apart. We call that diffluent flow. In college, again, if you took any kind of thermodynamics or anything like that, or any meteorology courses, we call it the mass continuity. If you're evacuating something up at the top of the atmosphere, well, it has to be replaced at the surface. So think of you're in a swimming pool and you're in a bathtub, you put your hands at the surface, and then you pull it apart, the water kind of goes away, but then from the bottom, it replaces the water that was just kind of pushed away by your hands. That is what is going to be happening with the atmosphere. So we have a lot of instability already, but what that setup like this is going to do is it's going to help to kind of pull the air up, lift it up, and that's what's going to eventually create the thunderstorms that in the environment that they'll be in could spin and produce supercell thunderstorms, which again could produce tornadoes, unfortunately. And that's going to be pretty much right smack dab into eastern Oklahoma, East Texas, northern Louisiana, and then into Arkansas. So right in here is we're going to be looking. We're still going to have to fine tune the exact spot here. But the risk is going to be there. Mini crafts. What about Florida? So that's a great question. So I'm going to show you right now. So Thursday is going to be Florida's time to get this cold front. There will be the chance for some severe weather, but it's not going to be as intense as what we could see in Texas, Louisiana, and into Arkansas. So I want you to know that, but there could still be some strong thunderstorms on Thursday. I will show you. Absolutely, we'll check on Missouri. So I do think, and we'll go back if you're looking for the risk area for severe weather. We're not completely out of the woods in Lebanon, Missouri. And again, for perspective, here we are up here. I know you know where you're at, but just so you know where we're at on the screen. And let me move the screen so you can actually see it. But here we go in Lebanon, of course. The main risk right now is going to be to your south. There's still going to be a little bit of shot for severe weather, but again, since it is December, the atmosphere isn't fully charged on a whole widespread scale. But on a more isolated scale. So basically, we're going to be watching for you to get for the chance for some stronger thunderstorms. But I don't think it's going to be as bad as it is just to your south. If something chances a little bit or slightly nudges up just a little bit, that's when things can change. I think pretty high, depending upon what part you're talking about in the Midwest. Certainly the further north, the better, but all of the above. All right, so we have a ton of people tuning on. Thank you guys so much for finding the channel. If you love to talk and track the weather, we would love to have you in this weather community. Please hit that subscribe button. Please hit the thumbs up. I'm planning on going live on Tuesday. If you're interested in keeping up with this, kind of how this storm evolves, I'm going to start in the morning, look at the atmosphere, look at how the setup has gone and come together. And then, of course, as we get closer to the start time of the thunderstorms and snow, and then during the severe weather event as it is. So here we go. I have a ton of people asking, hey, Lila, good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon in central Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky. All right. I hope so. And all of the above. So welcome to everybody that is finding this channel for the first time. I appreciate you all. A lot of people asking about their specific city. So we're going to go from West Coast to East Coast here. And we're going to kind of break it down for you section by section, day by day, so I can try to get all of you, okay? So here's the deal. So here's where we are today. So this is going to be now getting into Sunday night. So we have snow spreading into Nevada, Utah, just looking at some comments, responding to some comments. Northern Minnesota. I love it, Ted. I love Minnesota. Lived there for 4 years, at least in the southern part. But I've got great friends in northern Minnesota. We're going to take a look at that. I know I was texting him yesterday. He lives just outside of Duluth. And he's excited for some snow. So here's the deal. We're going to move into Monday afternoon. You see the snow moving toward the Rockies, into eastern Utah, into western Montana, into Idaho, and then into western Wyoming, Yellowstone National Park, getting into Cheyenne, Casper. As we move into Tuesday, this is when that storm really starts to ramp up. So we're getting now closer to you in Indiana. I'll get there in 1 second, Roger. We're going to look into that. And that's awesome. That's really, really cool. That's fantastic. Snow in Ozark, Missouri by the winter solstice. Yeah, I do think there's a shot for that by the winter solstice. I do. I am a fan, and before I end this live stream, we'll probably run for another 10 or so minutes. I'll show you that big upper level pattern chart again to kind of show you why I think that is. So here we go. There's Tuesday afternoon. There's the heavy rain moving into Iowa. Again, I think Iowa, we miss out on the snow for the most part. Missouri, we get some heavy rain involved. Arkansas, that's where we're looking for the severe weather potential as we get into later in the day on Tuesday and then into early Wednesday morning. But it's up here, South Dakota, North Dakota. There's so much going on. I mean, we're talking about rain to ice to snow in South Dakota, North Dakota. We're going to get into northern Minnesota for my friend here. Nope, not me. Or not. I'm Jonathan. Hey, Renee. Yeah, we'll check out Texas, and we'll go in reverse and check out Texas. So I think here, I love it. I'm just messing with you. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. East Texas is where we're going to have that shot for some severe weather. And then the real main threat for the strong storms and potential for some long track tornadoes is going to be in Louisiana through Arkansas and then extreme southern Missouri, right where you see that dark green color, right in here. And again, I apologize. My stupid telestrator decided not to work today, or else I'd be able to draw things out. Manhattan, Kansas, the Little Apple. I think we are going to see some rain. I do think, though, the severe weather threat stays out of our area. So this is going to be Tuesday morning in eastern Kansas. There's where we have some of the rain. Again, it could be heavy times, could see some stronger thunderstorms, but the main severe weather threat is going to be right in here, right when we start to see the darker green color pop back up. And then look at this. Hey, Christian, what's going on, my man? No, have not got into Columbus yet. We tune in just in time. Oklahoma, we are over you now, or I guess we're past you, but we'll go back. I don't know what part of Oklahoma. I am getting a little more concerned that we might start to see the severe risk area shift back towards Oklahoma a little bit. Again, there's still a lot to be ironed out. The central part, or the center of this storm is just getting on land. Our balloon network will then be able to sample that storm system better. And then we'll have a little more confidence to kind of fine tune that exact risk area. But I do think that it may be shifting a little bit further to the west. So keep that in mind over the next few days. And we're going to keep you posted on that as well. All right, Chris, we're going to continue east, get into Wisconsin. So depending upon where exactly in central Wisconsin you are, here we go. And it's going to be one of those things again. It's going to be one of those things again where we start out as rain because we just have a ton of warm air surging in. And then look at all the blue. It quickly changes to snow. So again, if you're at least north central Wisconsin, we're going to have the better shot for the snow. If you're more south central Wisconsin, there's more of a shot for rain, at least through most of the event. And then we'll see some of that cooler air come down. There goes the low back over Lake Michigan. And then there goes some of that, the changeover again back to snow. All right. So I mentioned that we would get into Columbus. Also, I don't know. I mean, you can tell that I went to Penn State. So I assume that you're an Ohio State fan. A lot of my best friends are Ohio State fans. So it's something I deal with on a yearly basis. But anyway, I told you I like sports. So for us, again, I think it's mainly rain. I think we're going to get a decent amount of rain in Columbus. This is and the wind will also crank up. Oh, that's awesome. I'm excited for you. I am excited for you. That's amazing. I'm sorry, I think you said central Wisconsin, right? I'm just going back into the I'm sorry, Columbus. I'm all over the place. There's so many comments. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Um, I love it. No, I hope everybody loves sports. It's fantastic. Anybody watching the World Cup? That's been crazy. I'm not even a huge soccer fan, but I guess every 4 years. So, yeah, right smack dab into central Ohio, right in Columbus there. Mainly just rain. We are maybe starting off as a little bit of a wintry mix early on Thursday morning, so watch out for that potential, but then it quickly changes to just plain old rain. Now, getting further to the east, like places like Pittsburgh, Erie, Pennsylvania, maybe Cleveland, we'll see it start to snow. And this is evidence of that blocking pattern that we were talking about. It's kind of funneling some colder air down into the interior New England area. So we're talking about on Thursday, we have snow into the mountains of Virginia, mountains of West Virginia, through central Pennsylvania. Somebody asked about central Pennsylvania a while ago. I'm so sorry. Just stop me if I get on a tangent. But if you're still with us on the live chat here, you see where we have the blue there, that represents the snow into central Pennsylvania. Also that ice there in some of those areas. And then the storm kind of blows off. And this is going to be one of the interesting things to see. This is kind of a new development on this model run here. It gets out over the warm waters of the Atlantic and kind of just blows up and becomes a nor'easter. And then rocks Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, North New Jersey. So that's a new development with this. All of that stuff. Somebody asked too about the snow in Missouri. At the end of this time period, notice there's another storm that gets going. It starts to brew there out of the Gulf of Mexico. This is why I think, again, we're going to have a really good shot at a white Christmas across a lot of the country. And even pretty far south, too. And again, I have that link posted to the top of the comments section if you want to check out who has the best chance to see a white Christmas this year. And I do think it's a lot of us. We will fine-tune that forecast. I'm going to have that come out on Monday, December 19th, the week of Christmas. Again, this time of the year, the weather patterns are funky. Just try to hone on to see who I think has the best shot. So if you're interested in that, seeing the update, again, the week of Christmas, if you're going to have a white Christmas, please subscribe. It has been awesome talking to everybody today. Thank you guys so much for finding the channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. And if you liked this live stream, and if you like some of the content on this channel, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button so we can continue this conversation. Again, we talk all things weather on this channel. We have a lot of fun doing it and hoping to avoid some of the destructive stuff. But again, if you're interested in staying up with the weather, we would love to have you on board here. I love to get your reports and find out what you are seeing, where you are, especially when there's weather happening. Northeast Wisconsin. I think we're going to get some snow. So there we go. This is going to be on Wednesday afternoon and evening. I think we're going to get some of that snow. That's the snow for the Dakotas right there. There could be a lot of snow coming in. We're going to check. I'm going to check on Wisconsin for you. And again, this is just the model album. I've not looked myself to actually forecast for Wisconsin. But we'll take a look. So this European solution wants a good amount of, I mean, it's got a foot of snow. I'm not sure if it's going to be that much, but you're going to get snow Wednesday night, I believe it was. Let me see. Yep, there's Wednesday morning. It starts Wednesday afternoon and then getting into Thursday. So like I was saying before, this is going to be such a high impact event. I mean, it's crazy. It's starting in the West Coast and then working to the East Coast and bringing, I mean, again, California, Sierra Nevadas, Cascades, in Washington, Oregon, we're getting nailed right now. This will continue over the next couple of days. Really, all the way through about Friday. This will exit the coast on Friday, the East Coast. So we're starting it on a Saturday, going to Friday. It's going to be one of those things, and again, we're going to watch how this one evolves. But again, just look at this thing. And that's all of the jet energy, and that's why we're concerned with that severe weather threat there. Hey, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been awesome talking to everybody, seeing what the weather's doing where you live, and taking a look city by city and state by state to as many places as I could. I really appreciate it. If you really liked what you saw, please hit that thumbs up button. And please consider subscribing. We would love to have you in this weather community. Again, I love to get all your reports. I love talking to you guys. Hey, Allie, I don't know if it's out of the woods completely. The risk has gone down a little bit from what it was on Monday night, but I don't think you're completely out of the woods. This is Monday night right here. So, of course, Norman, right about in there on the map. And I know you know, of course, where it is, but just to kind of, if you can't see some of the state lines because they are a little faint, there's still a lot of jet energy coming through. So I would be concerned for some kind of severe weather threat as we move through. The issue is that I do think it's going to be coming through for the first half of the day. So I don't think we're going to be able to build up a ton of instability to get going for those storms to take advantage of some of the wind shear that's going to be around in your environment. But I don't think completely out of the woods, but I think your threat is certainly trending down. And that threat, I think, would be more to the east of you, eastern Oklahoma into Arkansas versus OKC and Norman, Oklahoma. There is a tornado possibility in the south, a big possibility, unfortunately. I'll show you again that risk area. This is for Tuesday, and we keep on talking about the rarity of that orange color there. That's a rarity in severe weather season in April, May, in the plains. But to be highlighted 6 days out. Now we're at the 4-day out mark, but 6 days out, 2 days ago, the Storm Prediction Center out of Norman, Oklahoma, highlighted this area for the severe weather risk. And again, that is rare in severe weather season that heightened probability is there that far out. And that it's December and heading towards the middle of December. Thank you, Linda. I really appreciate that. And Linda says that she's watching from Kentucky. Granddaughter lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Just moved there from Florida after the big hurricane. Loves it there. Awesome. So in Sioux Falls, you guys are going to get, and we'll update this again. I'm going to have a video coming out. I'm going to have a video coming out on Monday, kind of fine tuning some of the impacts here. So again, if you're interested in that, please subscribe, and then you'll get that update. And I'll have that for you a little bit more fine-tuned. What part of Florida? I'm just north of Orlando and dealt with both. Hey, Serenity 2020, welcome to the channel. So southeast South Dakota, depending upon how far southeast you are, we're going to miss the fun part, the snow part. If you're rooting for the snow, I do think we're going to start. This is going to be Tuesday afternoon now. It look really, really close. And I'll show you a more zoomed in map of what the model thinks the snow is going to be for southeast South Dakota. But you see that pink there, southwest Minnesota, southeast South Dakota. I think we could have some ice. But I think a lot of this is going to be rain or ice to rain, and then eventually some snow on the back end. So there's when we get our snow as we transition this from Wednesday into Thursday. So it's not going to be a ton of snow. It's going to be more rain, a little bit of ice. Let me go back to, I know, and I know it's frustrating because a lot of times from Middle Tennessee, it does look like, all right, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one. And then it turns out to be just a cold rain. And it's really frustrating in that part of Tennessee. 25 minutes south of Tampa. Wow. That's awful. I'm so glad that she was in a safe place. I mean, it was an awful, awful year in Florida, of course. Just terrible. It's going to take a lot of time. A lot of time to recover. All right, so we're going to go back to the Dakotas because this is where we're going to have the highest impact in terms of the snow. So this is the fresh model run. This is from the balloon launches from earlier this morning. So I'm seeing this in real time. Really not much has changed in the placement or the axis of heavy snow here. And not all of it has loaded in. So I'm going to go back to the old one. It did kind of jog even further to the west. And I was just talking about how I think that the severe weather threat may be slightly jogging further to the west to include a little bit more of Oklahoma on the east side and a little more of northeast Texas. So we're going to watch that. But look at this. I mean, we're talking of the potential for a foot or two of snow right smack dab in central South Dakota. But for southeast South Dakota, we're oh so close. We're so close. But I think we're going to be ice to a cold rain because we're going to be on the warmer side of that. We're bad placement. Bad placement here for, there's the low. And for a good snow, you want to be northwest of the low. So again, kind of like there's the low again. Everybody to the north, the northwest. That's your ticket. That's the golden ticket for that. Lived here for 20 plus years. See, and that's a great point you bring up because I think that's the worst part of winter where you're not getting snow because it's like cold and it's gray and it's not colorful. So at least in Florida, you know you're not getting snow, but at least you can do stuff outside. I'm with you there. You got it. We'll be keeping a close eye on it for you. And again, I'm going to have a video with a more in-depth breakdown here of what we can expect for later Monday, Tuesday, and then getting into Wednesday, right smack dab in the central part for the main event of this thing, at least for that. So again, if you're not subscribed, I would love it if you subscribe and you can see that thing and you can join our weather community. Yeah, that whole seasonal depression thing, it's real. I'm from Pittsburgh and it's cloudy all the time there in the winter. Lake Erie just like, you get the northwest wind off the lake. It keeps things cloudy. When you don't have snow, it's like 42 degrees and cloudy and ugly and all that stuff. Yeah, there is the Keys, but I'm with you. I mean, that's super far south. Do you know, are they still going to make her go in on Tuesday? And I'm sorry, you said is what part of South Dakota? I'm sorry, Linda. We have a few people from South Dakota. I'm trying to go back into the comments. What part exactly you were in? So forgive me for that. There's a lot of people tuning in from South Dakota, which I appreciate. And I said it before, if you missed it, South Dakota is a great state. If you've never been there, it may be my top 2 favorite state in the country. Not that it matters what I think. I love Minnesota and I love South Dakota. It's so fun driving on I-90 through there. It's great. So I would highly recommend it. Of course, Badlands, Mount Rushmore, Black Hills, love it. And there's so many. Wall Drug. Oh my gosh, I could go on and on about South Dakota. Go on and on. That's the thing. It's funny too. I've lived in Florida for almost 4 years now, and I feel like Floridians treat the rain like that. My wife, when she used to go out to like a yoga class or something, or a hair appointment, all these cancellations would come in when it would rain because nobody would want to leave their house. It's like a snow day. So I want to know if that happened to you. On the Missouri River, Nebraska is across the bridge. Okay, so right, you are an extreme southeast. Okay, so Sioux Falls. So a couple people from southeast. So Sioux Falls, at least you're going to be not in a ton of snow, but there will still be snow there. Again, I'll go back and show you this latest outlook here. The fresh model run that's coming in, where I don't have all of it loaded, so this is going through Friday. I mean, it's still putting a good 3 to 6 inches, maybe even a little bit more. So there's going to be a decent amount of snow, and there's going to be a lot of wind too. We haven't talked about that lately in this live chat, but there's going to be a lot of wind. We have the potential, especially in southwest South Dakota, west Nebraska, for a straight up blizzard here. So this is going to blow around for a while too. It's that long duration event. And then, I mean, the heavy snow is into Montana, into Wyoming, into North Dakota, western Minnesota especially as well. Living in Boston. Okay, so you're not looking for, you don't want the snow. Okay. I think we'll have a couple chances, unfortunately, for some snow. But I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. Linda, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. It was awesome talking to you. Yep. That's that's so typical. It's crazy. And then 15 minutes it's sunny and it looks like a hurricane 1 minute. It's one of a kind. I'll just leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that. Awesome. All right, just reading some of the comments. So again, high impact storm is coming again. There's some of the snow for I've neglected the snow totals in the Sierra Nevadas. 48 inches, really 40 to 50 inches in the highest elevations of the Sierras. Great skiing weather out west if you like to ski. Awesome. Yo, okay, my cousin lives in Boston, and I remember him. I was like watching from afar, and I was like, I am so jealous. And he's like, no, like we can't do anything. And it was, I believe that year was also like super quiet. And then all of a sudden, like late in the season too, it was just like every snowstorm and like big snowstorm came in, and the pictures he was sending me was just insane. And all that stuff. So, yeah, that's a little bit too much. Or like what they just saw in Buffalo or in Orchard Park a few weeks ago at that Crazy Lake Effect Snow event. That's a little too much. 1 year. It's so awesome. Oh, yeah. And especially with the terrain there and the passes and having to all that stuff. That part is crazy. Snow in the mountains is a whole different animal than snow somewhere else. Absolutely. That's awesome. I love that. I love that. And I completely agree. Just reading some of the comments here. All right, so that's what it was. Okay. So I can't even imagine that. I love it. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Alrighty. Well, hey, we've been on for like almost 2.5 hours. Was not expecting to go this long, but you guys are great. It was awesome meeting everybody. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. Thank you for everybody that hit the thumbs up. And thank you to everybody that subscribed. I'm going to save my voice because I know on Tuesday we're going to go live multiple times in the day as this storm really ramps up. I'm going to have a fresh video out during the day on Monday to kind of highlight what I'm expecting on Tuesday in the northern plains with the snow and the potential blizzard. And then on the deep south side of things with the severe weather threat, the potential for the tornado outbreak in eastern Oklahoma, East Texas, Louisiana, parts of Arkansas as well. Again, in those areas. Okay, so I'm going to have that video out on Monday. Awesome. Yes. Yeah, he lives in Kentucky for sure. For sure. No, that's great. That is great. So new video comes out Monday. It's going to highlight the potential, and then I'm going to go live again on Tuesday morning. We're going to check the environment out in the Deep South and see if we have things coming together, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that we don't for that severe weather potential and tornado outbreak potential. And we're obviously going to go live in the afternoon, check up on that. And then as the severe weather event unfolds, we'll be with you tracking those storms alongside you and with you. And for those that don't live in those areas, we can kind of check in and kind of track that and watch together. It always helps too. The last time round of severe weather, I had some people sending me reports in as it was going in real time from friends and family that was going on there. So that was extremely helpful for all of that as well. So I appreciate all of that, and I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate tuning in. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I really, really do. I love it. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, they are. My chief meteorologist that I work with in Central Florida, he's from Middle Tennessee, and his mom lives there too, and he talks about it a lot. Loves it up there. I've never been, and I got to get up there. So that's fantastic. Love to hear that. Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate that. Awesome. Thanks, Linda. You be safe as well. Again, I'm going to have a fresh video coming Monday, so please hit that subscribe button. If you hit the alert bell, you'll be alerted to when that new content is out. And then I'm also, again, going to go live Tuesday morning. We're going to check the environment out to see how things are coming together in terms of that severe weather potential. We're going to take a look at the blizzard side of that storm as well. And then we're going to go live probably early afternoon again just to give a brief update on the environment. And then live again through the event, of course, as we kind of track those storms. And I'm just really hoping that this fizzles out. Although, again, there's pretty good agreement, model consensus, and the way the environment looks that we are going to get something ugly here in the Deep South. So we're going to keep it posted, and we are going to watch it for you. It's like a Midwestern goodbye. I keep on saying bye, and then I keep on seeing a comment and talk again. If you're interested in the White Christmas outlook, I have that video pinned to the top of the comments. And David, you are tagged, my man. I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks, buddy. I'm glad too. Seriously, I love to. We're trying to build this far-reaching. It's so nice. Like, this is the greatest part about social media. Like, meeting people that you normally never would meet and run into. So I had a blast this afternoon. Again, we typically go live on every Saturday afternoon just to kind of check up on what the atmosphere is doing, and then as needed, and then the content comes out gradually through the week. So thank you guys so much. All right, I'll stop talking your ear off now. Again, please subscribe. Please hit that thumbs up. I appreciate you. Please stay safe out there. Again, we track all things weather together. Really appreciate you finding this channel and turning it on. Look, see, now I'm going to say, hi, Ambush. Good afternoon. Hope you are doing well, my friend. Thanks for finding this channel. Again, like, subscribe, all of the above. We'll catch you next time. Again, new video comes out on Monday. And I'll be active in the community section as well for the rest of today, tomorrow, and then as the severe weather event unfolds. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.